Well, guys, we've been talking about Ryan Hinton. Now, for those of you who may not know who Ryan Hinton is, Ryan Hinton is the 17-year-old that was shot by the police, and his father ended up running over a sheriff. Now, they are discussing the actual coroner's report, and we're going to get into it to see what the coroner is actually saying.
How are you?
Okay. They're adjusting the lights. More or less.
Good. Yeah, the prosecutor gets that fancy media room with the fancy lights that Joe Dieter's put together, the Hollywood lights, right? I never got that. Never got that. They also have PIOs and they have whatever. I'm the PIO. What did it say? The chief diaper changer, bottle washer in this office, right?
You do windows?
Don't do windows. I'm sorry. Do bathrooms, but not windows. Not here, but we're necessary. We're all moms, and we have the ability. We do what it takes.
I don't think you'd be too squeamish if you do autopsies.
We're not squeamish. We're not squeamish. We had our annual Ohio State Coroners Association meeting a week and a half ago. You guys want to talk squeamish? Yeah. And it's always a challenge. It's like, who's going to show the worst? It's like some sort of contest. Ugh. Anyway, it took a while for me to get used to that because, I'm a radiologist. Everything in black and white on screen looks way better than everything in red in person. Well, ready?
Ready.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming at such short notice, and I know it was rather short notice. So first I want to address having to cancel the press conference on Friday. As you know, we were served with grand jury subpoenas on Thursday. And in my 13 years as coroner, I've never been served with a grand jury subpoena. And I looked into it, and I believe, at least in the history of Hamilton County in the last 40 years, that hasn't happened to any of the coroners. So this was new territory. We had to learn some things. We had to consult some people. We had to ask a lot of questions. And so I decided putting off a press conference until we got some answers was the better way to handle things. So thank you for coming for the delayed press conference, shall we say, postponed. In the interim, I understand that some of the autopsy findings have been relayed to the public. And I just thought that the public should hear that from us, from our office directly, so that they get the facts straight and so that the information is correct. I want to start off with saying, first of all, our condolences to the grieving families, because this is not easy for anybody. And no matter what family you are, there are victims in this, and they're not just the people that have passed away. It's really the family members who are left to deal with their grief. So in the interest of hopefully easing some of the pain, and also to be able to provide the media, and you have sent me many written requests asking for the preliminary autopsy findings. And we've always worked well together in trying to provide the information and the truth to the public. So I'm counting on you to do that here. And so I thought I will give you a copy of this when I'm done with the press conference, but I wanted to at least give you the preliminary autopsy findings on Ryan Hinton. So Mr. Hinton had 3 gunshot wounds to his body. And this is in no particular order, but there was one in the left forearm, and there was an entrance wound and an exit wound, and it was soft tissue injury only. Did not contact any bone, and just skin wounds, entrance and exit. There was a second gunshot wound in the left lateral chest, so underneath the axilla, meaning the armpit, and that one did traverse the chest, and it did traverse through the left ventricle, and it exited the chest near the sternum. We believe that is the lethal wound. There was a third, basically just beneath the skin wound, and it was in the right posterolateral chest, adjacent to the shoulder, and it was soft tissue only. It traveled beneath the skin and ended just beneath the skull, and we were able to retrieve that bullet. So Mr. Hinton's cause of death is a gunshot wound to the torso. Left lateral chest, we believe, was the lethal wound. And his manner of death is homicide. So I wanted to make sure you got the exact facts from us and relayed that to the public. And again, there are no words to express our grief and our sorrow to the family members. And we hope that this provides some solace to know the actual facts.
You ready to take questions?
I'm ready to take questions, but they're going to be limited to our portion of the investigation.
So can you talk about that, the bullet wound that killed Hinton? Did that go through his arm and then enter his chest? Is that one bullet?
There is a possibility that that could have been the same bullet, because when you're running, usually you've got your arms, contracted in a 90-degree elbow position, and you're running back and forth like this. So it's possible that the same bullet traversed the left forearm and into the left side of the chest.
If the bullet that killed him went in his side and out his sternum, which is his chest, does that mean he was shot from slightly behind?
No, it was straight from the side. This is mid-lateral side. And if you're asking why did it go toward the front, it did contact a rib on the way. So, as you know, when projectiles, you can talk to somebody who's a physics expert or a firearms expert, when they hit something solid, they tend to deflect.
And did you recover that bullet, or was it the other? That was the one you did not.
Yeah,
recover.
no, there were pieces of that bullet that we recovered, but not the entire bullet, no.
And he basically bled to death then, then what happened?
We didn't have a scene response. We only responded to the hospital, so I'm not sure what happened at the scene. So.
The third bullet that you were able to retrieve from the right posterolateral
Neck.
chest.
No,
You're saying he
it was
shot-
recovered from the neck, just below the skull.
So you're saying he was shot in the back.
No, I said he was shot in the right posterolateral near the shoulder.
Almost that angle that you see in that body cam.
I cannot comment on the body cam. First of all, there was so much motion, and I am not a body cam expert, and I get a little motion sick anyway, so that's not my cup of tea. So you're going to have to ask somebody about the body cam footage. Yeah.
So can you then talk about where that bullet entered that body in plain speak and where it exited?
It entered the side of the chest. It impacted the left 7th rib, and then it traveled through the left side of the chest, through the left ventricle, and then out the front.
And then the other bullet, how would that bullet have, in plain speak, entered and exited?
It entered, plain speaking, I mean, I'm a physician. This is right posterolateral chest is, near the shoulder, and then traveled up underneath the skin, and then ended at the base of the skull without impacting bone or anything along the way. It was all soft tissue beneath the skin.
That would have had to be then as he was going down.
You're going to have to talk to somebody about that, because again, I can't comment on the body cam footage or what position his body was in at the time. And I can't also tell you which gunshot wound preceded which. I don't know the order. I can just tell you the gunshot wounds there are 3 entrance wounds and 2 exit wounds.
But it's possible that there were only two bullets that hit him.
It's possible.
perspective, what allows you to talk today that didn't allow you on Friday?
I didn't know that I wasn't allowed on Friday, but I didn't have enough information. And that's why I had to postpone the press conference until I gathered some more information about what my requirements were with respect to the grand jury subpoena. And that's why I took the time to get the information before I proceeded with the press conference.
What does that mean that you got this subpoena then?
I don't know what that means. I mean, it's a grand jury subpoena asking for materials and, like I said, I've never had one before in the office. So that's why I needed to find out what that meant.
It didn't stop you from relaying any of this information then?
Not today, but I didn't know what that meant when I received it. So I felt compelled to postpone it until I got some more information and then made a decision then to go ahead and move forward with the press conference.
Does the reason why you wanted to hold this press conference, obviously you said it was to ease the pain of the grieving families. Does it also perhaps ease community tensions?
Well, that is my hope. And I think in my 13 years of being in the office, being transparent with the public and the media with what we find and what we have found has been something that we routinely do. And that's part of what I've done in the office is I want to be transparent because I think you have a right to know. And I think the family has a right to know. And so we wanted to present you with the actual facts and not have conjecture out there with somebody saying this and somebody saying this and, and it's all confusing and then the tensions are going up. So let me provide you with the actual facts. And that's what we are doing here. The other thing is that the family and the prosecutor's office have both been provided with what I'm going to be providing you. The family has also obtained their own private autopsy. So they have findings. They already know their findings. I'm sure that's been shared with them. So this is what we found in our office.
What day do you report to the grand jury?
I don't think I'm allowed to discuss that.
Can you kind of just like Dave, can you kind of point to where it is on the body?
You know what? I didn't do the autopsy. So I'm looking at the report and
Is that going to be on what you give us, like the exact spot where it is?
no, we don't do diagrams or anything like that. I mean, that will be provided.
Because when
I'm
you
sure.
say, I'm not thinking like this area, and then the other one is like here or here. I'm a little confused on exactly where.
This is what I got from our pathologist.
Yeah.
So
When did you finish the autopsy and what was that communication with the police department, with them saying it was, through the chest, kind of where was the miscommunication there and what is going to be done moving forward so this doesn't happen again?
well, this is why I ask that we provide the autopsy findings from our office so that you get the real facts. And how that was communicated to the police, I don't know. I'm not even sure if they were present at the autopsy. Actually, I haven't looked into it. The autopsy was performed the next day.
It's possible, obviously, that the police were just relaying what they observed as opposed to autopsy results.
It's possible. And I don't know, like I said, they might have been present for the autopsy. I'm not sure. But we also don't, even though you all request it, we don't give you autopsy findings the day that we do them. Because there's a fair amount of looking at all the information, looking at scene photos, if there are any, looking at the other evidence that we're provided with before we even put together preliminary autopsy findings. And so we don't want to present you with something that we then have to retract later.
Prosecutor Pillage said that she, after you canceled the last press conference, Prosecutor Pillage said that she wanted all of the information gathered and she wanted to put that out with your autopsy results all at one time. Obviously, this subverts that. It precludes that from happening. What are your thoughts in reference to that?
Well, number one, since you're all familiar with Ohio Revised Code 313.10D, which governs how we provide information to the media when the media provides us with written requests. Up until recently, that stated the coroner shall provide preliminary autopsy findings, photos, et cetera, for you to view in a timely manner. And we have always done that in the past. And in this particular case, the language now has changed to may, but we thought it was important for you to have it since you've all provided me with so many written requests for access to that. And we have always been transparent with the public in our findings. We're a scientific organization as well as a healthcare organization. And I think the public expects nothing less from us. And that's what we try and do. But we also don't want to provide it so quickly that we haven't had a chance to look at all of the evidence that we have. So our portion of the investigation, this is what we've concluded. Yes, there's still preliminary autopsy findings because there's still a few more things that need to be done, like looking at microscope slides and, confirming all of the laboratory tests. But
Did you get the toxicology back?
yes,
And did that show anything in his system?
yes, it did. But does that really affect
Are you-
what happened
yeah,
with?
Well, I was just wondering, are you able to tell us what that was?
I would prefer to wait until we get the rest of the tests back. We're still waiting on a couple of things, so we have some preliminary tests. But again, this is one of those cases where I don't want to precipitously give you information that I may have to back up on and relook at things. So some of those tests take a little while. And it's only been 2 weeks, so.
So from the reports that you have, I just want to confirm, he was shot in the side.
Yes.
Parallel. And so it was, the fatal wound was one that came through the armpit, exited the sternum. So it was not shot in the chest or the back, it was all side.
Just below the armpit. So that is still considered chest. It's just the side of the chest. Yeah.
And then the other one, I'm a little still confused on the second one that hit him in the shoulder. Where did that enter?
I said upper posterior, posterolateral
That's what I
chest.
picked up.
I know you're gonna have to go look it up.
Yeah, exactly where that is.
Go look it up.
It's the back of
I'm
the
gonna
shoulder,
keep it
posterior.
You're
Yeah.
saying the back of the shoulder.
posterolateral adjacent to the shoulder.
Okay.
And that was not the lethal wound. That was simply under the skin and traveled literally under the skin. And it was recovered at the base of the skull, but before it entered.
Back to Connie Pilich's initial reaction to the press conference that had been called and then canceled. Are you afraid that having this press conference is going to in any way hamper the prosecutor's efforts?
I am here simply presenting facts, and what I think this goes back to what we talked about just 2 weeks ago. The absolute need to have an independently elected coroner so that the public gets that information from us. I mean, I think over the last several days, all of these issues that have happened come up point out even more the importance of having an independently elected coroner. And, so if the public is watching this, please reach out to your Ohio senators to support Senator Blessing's amendment that he's introducing, removing the language of eliminating elected coroners and instead having them appointed by the commissioners. This is why you need to have us elected. This is why you need to have us elected so that you're hearing directly from us and you're getting the factual information.
Do you worry it could taint the grand jury?
I'm sorry?
Do you worry it could taint the grand jury?
With what I'm presenting?
Yeah, more fact.
Any more than anything else that's already been out in the press? These are just facts. They're going to get the facts anyway.
They're going to be presented this information.
Absolutely.
Probably even more, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. They'll get the facts. Yeah, they'll get our evidence and incomplete. So, yeah.
I'm not sure if your report would be able to identify this, but based on, would you be able to see if he was holding an object or a gun, or based on the indentations in the hands or anything like that?
No, where guns are concerned, of course, we're going to check for gunshot residue on hands. But all that tells you, and this is something that, the public watches so many forensic shows. And I know everybody thinks if there's gunshot residue present, that means that they pulled the trigger. Well, it doesn't. It just means that they might have been in the vicinity of somebody that pulled the trigger. They might have been, even the same room, and it might have floated around. They might get a little gunshot residue. But yeah, it could indicate that somebody pulled the trigger too. We always check the hands, but that's if somebody pulled the trigger. But also, if you're shot and there's gunshot residue, there could be gunshot residue from that. So that's not exactly going to be accurate as far as looking at that information.
Was the pathway of the gunshots consistent with him being in a certain position, whether it was him holding a gun in a bladed position, as police or prosecutors have said? Is there anything that
We can't comment on that. I mean, it passed through his left forearm, so and the left side of his chest. So that would be where the bullet entered, and then it exited. It deflected off the 7th rib through, and then it exited near the sternum.
So what additional information are we going to get from a final autopsy report?
The laboratory tests, the toxicology reports, and anything else that we might find as far as, medical issues that he's had, have detailed analysis of the organs, just to make sure that there aren't any other medical issues that he might have had that we would, of course, relay to the family, that, if there's something there that looked like it was genetic, and that we would share that information with the family so that, they can have other people checked in the family. It's part of a routine autopsy to make sure that we're covering all the information that we can get.
You said that you were not called to the scene, but responded to the hospital. Is there any reason for that?
Yeah, well, he was transported to the hospital in an attempt to save his life. So, and then he was pronounced there. So that's why we responded there. If that didn't happen and he was pronounced at the scene, we would have responded to the scene. So.
It was that bullet when it clips that ventricle, though, that was probably the part of it that made this the fatal shot.
Correct.
I mean, that's the part that did the most damage that would have been.
Yes, that's the lethal wound. All right, I think we've exhausted all the details here. So if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to leave it at that. I do want to thank you all for coming, and thank you for being patient for my postponed press conference. But like I said, this was something that I had never experienced, and I, as an independent elected official, I did want to make sure that I was complying with the terms, and but wanted to still, I just felt it was important that with misinformation that might be out there in the public, that I give you the actual information.
Thank you, Dr. Smart.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
These are copies. We will get those to you.
And guys, so now we're learning that Ryan was actually shot 3 times, which is quite interesting that we were not told that information. So it just goes to show that I guess I don't understand why he needed to be shot 3 times. And if you guys heard what she said, his death is classified a homicide, which is very interesting.